All right, so today we are going to be talking about financial aid letters and appeals. So the table of contents, we're going to have loans versus grants. What do these really mean? Renewable versus non-renewable, and how to include this in the college cost calculation, and organizational tools, which is keeping financial aid clear and easily compatible. And last but not least, appeal letters. What is an appeal letter and how to write one? Why are financial aid letters important? Financial aid letters are given by each individual school in order for the student to have an idea of the cost of attending. They also include any scholarships and grants the school has provided to the student. Financial aid letters are a crucial part in deciding in a college/university. This is how the student knows if they are financially able to attend. Loans versus grants. What really is the difference? Don't they both give me money anyways? Well, loans. Did you know not all aid is created equal? Although loans can help a student pay for schooling, there are very important details. Number one is that you have to pay back the money that is offered, and this is usually with interest. However, they do have fewer requirements and are easier to qualify for. It is the most common form of financial aid. It's the most likely that you're going to be offered. What types of loans are there? There are federal loans and there are private loans. Federal loans are more desirable due to their low interest rate. They also allow for flexibility with payments, loan consolidation, and even deferred payments. Private loans are provided by banks, credit unions, etc., and typically have a higher interest rate and less flexibility and benefits. Grants. So grants and scholarships are gift aid. This means that unlike loans, they do not need to be paid back. Scholarships are typically merit-based, while grants are based on just financial need. So renewable versus non-renewable. How do we estimate the college cost? So renewable, like the name suggests, these scholarships can be received multiple times during the student's school career. It is usually for 4 years. So a scholarship that is $1,000 is actually $4,000 at the end of it. Non-renewable. A one-time award provided to the students. Usually the student cannot apply for the scholarship again. So in this example, the $1,000 scholarship would just be 1,000. Tricky wording. So in this letter of financial aid, it states, we are also pleased to announce that you have been granted a presidential scholarship, which totals in $16,000 across 4 years for tuition purposes. Congratulations. So let's read it closely again. So we are also pleased to announce that you have been granted a presidential scholarship, which totals in $16,000 across 4 years for tuition purposes. It is not 16,000 every year. It totals in 16,000, so it's 4,000 per year. How do we calculate the college cost? So after having the net aid calculated, we subtract it from the total cost of attendance, like on the right. We have tuition and fees, room and board, and everything. We add it up and we have total cost of attendance. We subtract that from the gift aid we're given. So in this case, it's 27,850 minus 24,500. So at the end of it all, you would have to pay around 3,350 out of pocket that year. Financial aid can vary every year. So it is really important to recalculate this cost yearly. Organization tools. There's so many letters, I don't know what to do. Well, the first thing you should do if you're a student is you upload your financial aid letters to your name's admissions and financial aid letters. I made a template to facilitate the process of organizing for tools. And this little template allows you to compare the cost of attendance side by side. So the template is right there. I'll go over it at the end of the presentation. Federal Work Study. It's a financial aid program provided by the government for eligible students with financial need. It basically provides a part-time paid job, which is usually on campus. The maximum you can earn is stated on the financial aid letter. However, if you do not work all the hours, you can receive less. And there's a little picture on the right that explains it a little more. Like being offered a federal work study does not guarantee you a job. You still have to apply and you have to find one. The work study earnings are removed from FAFSA, so they are not used to calculate your aid next year, so they won't count against you. And again, federal work study is not guaranteed from year to year. Things change, financial aid changes, so it's very important to recalculate this cost every year. Do you have to accept all aid? No, you do not have to accept all aid. Make sure you opt out of the loans that you do not need because you will have to pay them back with interest. And there's no point in doing that if you don't need it. Appeal letters. What are they, and how do we write them? So, appeal letters are a formal request sent to the university's financial aid office, basically asking them to reconsider the amount of aid offered due to unforeseen circumstances. It requires a justified reason. What are valid reasons for appeal? So, a job loss or a decrease in income, divorce or separation of parents, unreimbursed medical expenses, loss of home or business by, for example, natural disasters, end of child support, social security benefits, etc., and other life-altering events. Wait, but it's my admission year. Good news, you do not need a life-altering event to request for a review in financial aid. So how to write an appeal letter. Start with who you are and explain how grateful you are for previous aid/admission into the school. Be direct, formal, and concise. Explain why you need the money in a respectful manner. Give specifics of financial situation and run the numbers with them and to show them why it will not be enough. Include details about your past successes and your hard work. This is an appeal letter example. To the financial aid office at UCLA, my name is Sarah Martinez, and I am a 12th grader currently enrolled in Los Angeles Academy. First, I would like to say that I am very honored to have been admitted into this fine school, as UCLA is my number one choice. First step, where you're from, and grateful for the acceptance. There is a problem, however, and it is a financial one. Straight to the point. I'd love to attend UCLA. It's near home, which would allow me to be closer to my family, and the bio department is phenomenal. But as a low-income Hispanic student, I simply don't feel like I can afford it. I'm ready to respectfully request an adjustment of my financial aid award. This is why UCLA is a great fit for her, and again, a respectful request for more money. Here are some more details of my financial situation. Currently, my father works as an assistant supervisor for American Apparel Co., and he is the only source of income for my family of five. While my mother is a housewife, the income my father receives weekly barely meets paying the bills. So here she shows her family's overall income, her father's weekly gross pay, her adjusted gross income, and his adjusted gross income, and their household expenses. And then here she is giving the numbers of why it is not enough. Literally give the numbers. And then my parents cannot afford to have medical insurance, so they do not have a medical bill. My father's average monthly income is an estimate of 1,973. See attached pay stub. That's another really important thing. If you have evidence of anything you're stating, write it, put it down, attach it, because you don't want to keep going back and forth with them asking for more evidence and everything, because these processes can take a couple of months, and you want to make sure you get it before school starts so you can actually attend school. So when household expenses such as rent, car payment, legal services, gas bills, and electricity bills are added together, the cost is 1,402. Other payments such as the phone bill, internet bill, and groceries also add to the list. But in order to make ends meet, my father usually works overtime and tailors clothes for people in our neighborhood. So explaining briefly that her family is doing everything they can. My family is on an extremely tight budget and unfortunately cannot afford to pay for my schooling. I have worked my way up and was recently awarded valedictorian for the class of 2014. My goals and my aspiration of becoming a nutritionist have helped push me forward. I appreciate your time in reconsidering my financial aid award. I'm looking forward to becoming a Bruin. Last step, including your previous awards showing your hard work. So she explained she was a valedictorian, and this is really important because it can show schools that you are going to succeed in their school and you're gonna, like, just with this financial aid help, you are going to do great. This is an example provided by College Essay Guy. This is a simpler example. So this is a parent writing it, and he states, Dear Financial Aid Director, after submitting the FAFSA for the 2017 to 2018 school year, I realized that you are using the same tax year that was used for my son's freshman year. I am writing to you because my income for this year has declined, and this fact will not be represented when you examine the FAFSA for the 2017 to 2018. Let me explain why. I am a freelance graphic artist and only work when I receive a call for a project and am offered the job. In other words, I only receive a paycheck when I work. This could be for one day or several days, but I do not have steady or guaranteed income. In addition, it is not a job in the traditional sense, where I go to work at the same place every day. I may work for several different companies. I have been very fortunate in that I have been working my craft for a long time and get a fair number of calls, but some years are better than others. Unfortunately, this year I am on a track to make approximately 15,000 to 18,000 less than I did in the 2015 calendar year. Thank you for your consideration. So this, he said, he did everything pretty much. It can be very simple. And honestly, the shorter you do it, almost the better because you don't want to give them a two-page like letter because they're very short on time. You want it to be very easy to read like back here, just where you're from, straight to the point, why it's a great fit, give the numbers, and include your previous awards and hard work. So the parent can do it, but it's recommended the student does it. And thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. This is more information, like where I got everything from, if you guys want to read more into it. I'm going to go over the template, and there is one thing I wanted to mention that I feel like I didn't touch onto. Yes, I think I skipped this one. So schools will provide an estimated cost of attendance. So the tuition and fees will depend on the amount of credits a student takes. And room and board is an estimated amount. So it's more affordable to dorm than to have an apartment. Books, supplies, transportation, and personal expenses are all estimated. So the total cost of attendance is an estimation. For example, it doesn't mean the tuition and fees doesn't mean you're going to have to pay 16,000 exactly. It could be less or more. The room and board all depends exactly where you're going to live. So they don't have an actual answer for that. Books and supplies, again, are an estimate. Transportation is an estimate. Maybe you live further away, so it will cost more. And miscellaneous and personal for 2000 is also an estimate. Depends how much you spend on groceries and how many personal things you want, if you have to buy a computer and things like that. But yes, now I'm going to go over organizational tools right here. So this is a template I made, which you can put your school. You can put the amount of aid you're going to get for Bright Futures around, the federal Pell Grant you receive, the Florida Student Assistance Grant if you see that you're going to get it, the institutional grant aid, that's if the actual institution gives you aid, outside scholarships, any scholarships you won, like the Burger King scholarship, then federal work study, which we talked about, and the estimated cost of attendance. So you put all this money over here that you're gonna get, then the estimated cost of attendance, which is what you're gonna have to pay, and it automatically subtracts it for you. And it means you're going to have to pay 4,200 out of pocket. And if you just write down the schools and put it here, it's going to be really easy to see which one would be cheaper or more affordable. So yeah, and you can put your available loans over here to see what you do have available, and it doesn't factor into the equation to see the out-of-pocket cost. But this is a very useful tool. I think it'd be really helpful if you use it to compare cost of attendance and out-of-pocket costs for schools. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this.